Hello from the Adorama Live Theater in Soho. This is WCBS Author Talks. I'm Steve Scott. Our guest today is the pioneering neuropathologist who established the first link between football and the brain condition known as CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy. His name is Dr. Bennet Omalu. He has a new book out called Truth Doesn't Have a Side. Dr. Omalu, welcome today.
Thank you so much, Steve. I'm happy to be here.
Let's start with this. In brief layman's terms that a non-neuropathologist might understand, what is CTE?
Well, CTE is a type of brain damage which has no cure. It's permanent. It's caused by blows to the head. And following the blows, the greater the number of blows you have, the greater the risk of developing CTE. And you may not suffer any symptoms for 5, 10, 20, sometimes up to 40 years. Then suddenly you would begin to have very subtle but progressive symptoms that eventually would progress to a full-blown dementia. Many of the symptoms would include major depression, memory impairment, you begin to forget things, inability to engage in very complex thinking, inability to control your moods, irrational behavior, social improprieties, sexual improprieties, tendencies to engage in violent behavior, in criminal behavior, and so many other symptoms. But CTE is just one type of brain damage. There are so many other types of brain damage that follow trauma to the brain.
I want to talk more about CTE and contact sports-related brain damage in a moment. But first, the book, Truth Doesn't Have a Side. You've written books before. Why this book now?
Well, this book, I never wanted to write this book. Just like I never wanted to meet Mike Webster. But after the movie Concussion, many parents started reaching out to me to ask me questions about their children playing contact sports. And I began to receive so many emails, very sad emails of parents whose kids have suffered some type of brain damage from playing football, ice hockey, boxing, mixed martial arts. And many times, most of these parents would tell me that they never knew. That even if they had known, they had no reference book they could have bought to read that would fully, sincerely explain the issues concerning football without any spin. So my agent actually approached me and convinced me to write a book. He said he would get me a ghostwriter to help me if I were afraid of, writing a book. It's not easy. So I said, okay, if you do that, I'll write it. And he got me a ghostwriter. I wrote the book, and the ghostwriter came in, took what I wrote, and polished it up to professionalize it.
Mm-hmm. You talk about getting emails from parents.
Yes.
You're a dad.
Yes.
You have 2 children, a son. What would you say to parents who ask you, Dr. Malu, my child has come to me and wants to play football. They say all the other kids are playing football. I want to play football. What would you say to those parents?
Like I said in the book, which I strongly encourage every parent to buy this book. If I may, please, Steve, talk about my faith. I'm a Christian. I practice my faith in my science and my science in my faith. When I had my first daughter, my first child, my only daughter, Ashley, she's 9 years old now, I wept. Because it suddenly dawned on me that as a parent, when you conceive a child, God invites you in to partake in creation. And God gives you a gift of a spirit and a gift of life in your child. And as a parent, I've discovered that I do everything within my means to nourish my child, to protect my child, and to help my child become whoever God created him or her to be. So having said that, if I encounter any factor that I know could be harmful to my child, what do? I protect my child from that harmful factor. So if my child comes to me, oh, daddy, I want to play football, I want to play ice hockey, I want to play mixed martial arts, I would imagine in my head, what if my son comes to tell me, oh, daddy, I want to smoke? What do I say? I tell him, oh, honey, smoking is dangerous for you. I can't let you smoke. Or, daddy, I want to drink a glass of cognac. No, honey, alcohol damages your brain. I'm not going to let you drink alcohol. Now, which is more dangerous, a stick of cigarette or a concussion of the brain? Obviously, a concussion of the brain. So if my son comes and asks me, oh, daddy, can I play football? Oh, daddy, I want to play football. Everybody's doing it. I would say, no, honey, that football is potentially dangerous for you. It can damage your brain and rob you of your intelligence, the essence of who you are. Honey, why don't you play the non-contact sports? Track and field, I ran 100 meters, races, swimming, volleyball, basketball, badminton, lawn tennis, table tennis, and so many of them. If you visit the website of the International Olympic Committee, there are hundreds of non-contact sports. And non-contact sports would provide your child whatever the high-impact, high-contact collision sports would provide, but will even do more for your child, would preserve the intelligence of your child. So every parent out there should know that if your child plays the high-impact, high-contact collision sports, the big six are football, ice hockey, mixed martial arts, boxing, wrestling, and rugby. There is a 100%, and I repeat it, 100% risk exposure to permanent brain damage.
It doesn't mean you will have permanent brain damage, but you are exposed to that possibility.
You're reasonably exposed to that possibility. And what happened? Science over the centuries have shown that if your child plays these games and suffers blows to the head, suffers subconcussions and concussions, your child has a much greater likelihood of dying before the age of 42, especially through violence. Your child is about 2 to 4 times more likely than the general population to commit suicide. Your child is about 2 to 4 times more likely to develop major psychiatric illnesses, including major depression. Your child is more likely to suffer disinhibition syndromes. What we mean by that, he becomes more violent, is more likely to engage in criminal behavior, in sexual indiscretions and social indiscretions. Your child is less likely to attain his God-given academic or intellectual level or capacity. Blows to the head would rob your child of his intelligence, his intuition, and make him less functional as an adult, will make him less employed or less gainfully employed, and will make him more likely to be a recipient of welfare payouts or disability payouts. And this has been very well established in the literature dating back hundreds of years. This is not something new. But I think as a society, science tells us that we evolve. And as we evolve, we become more intelligent. And as we become more intelligent, we give up the less intelligent things of the past. For example, mankind of 2017 is more intelligent than mankind of 1817. Okay? And again, the congruence of science and faith. What does faith also tell us? I'm a Christian. The scripture tells us that we must most gladly give up the things of the past, the old self, and embrace the new self in the renewal of our minds, in the holiness and righteousness of the truth.
When you first began your CTE research, Mike Webster was the first, and Terry Long, Andre Waters. 3 cases established a trend, as you say in the book. But as you published papers or tried to publish papers on it, you received pushback, not only from the NFL, which I guess might be surprising, and might not be surprising because it's their cash cow, but also from others in the medical profession. Why did you receive pushback? Why were your papers opposed, ignored, rejected?
You know, I truly do not mind the NFL coming after me. You know, the NFL accused me of engaging in criminal behavior and requested that my paper be retracted. But what really hurt me most was the treatment I received from my fellow doctors. And in my life, I've struggled with depression and low self-esteem. That could have pushed me over. Even the National Institute of Health, even professional organizations, I was ostracized, ridiculed, dismissed. Even some of them denied that I did not discover CTE. They were just beating around the bush. But I spent years thinking about that. Why? In fact, I even wondered, why me? Because, Steve, I was a foreigner. I am a foreigner, though I'm an American now. I was young. I was only 3 months outside my training as a neuropathologist. I was a nobody. I was a buffoon of football, a total ignoramus. I did not know what a touchdown was. I did not know what a quarterback was. I did not know what the NFL stood for. So why would it take such an individual to discover this disease in America's most popular sport? Okay? And even when I published my finding, American physicians rejected me. It's actually something very well established in science. It's called the central limit theorem. And it says in every measurable index of human behavior that we humans have a tendency to cluster towards a certain expectation, about 97% of us.
Conformational intelligence, as you call it in the book.
Yes, conformational intelligence. And once you do not conform to that certain expectation, you are an outlier. You're an outsider.
I wonder, the fact that you were born in Nigeria, you came to America as a young man, a young adult man. You didn't grow up watching football. Did you have a more open mind, a clearer head when it came to CTE research, as opposed to someone who maybe grew up in this country watching every Sunday or Saturday, if they like college football, who maybe, even if they saw it, did not want to see it?
Yes, in fact, people have come to me to tell me that if I had grown up in this country, there was no way I could have performed an autopsy on Mike Webster. Because I would have been so much in awe of his body. Okay? But because I had no conformational cast of the mind about football, I was thinking objectively and clearly. I had no reason to do his autopsy. We knew why he died. But as a Christian scientist, I saw him as a brother of mine, because the humanity of my science tells me that we all are members of one another. Whatever I do for you, I do for myself and for all of us. So I saw Mike Webster. There were so many questions that did not have answers. Why? So I did his autopsy. I examined his brain. It looked normal. I saved it, spent my own money to find out the truth. Okay? So if I had grown up in this country, who knows? I could have been suffering from conformational intelligence around football, which is what I define as a phenomenon whereby your intelligence, your intuition, your mentality, your way of thinking, perception of your environment, interpretation of your environment is controlled by expectations, traditions, norms, cultures of society without you being aware of it. And then when objective evidence is provided to you, just like I did, to refute the cast of your mind, you reject it, deny it, and become emotional.
But I wonder, could other neuropathologists have seen exactly what you saw? And maybe deep in their brains, they knew what they were seeing. They were identifying CTE, but because they were raised on football, they would not believe it.
But in my research, because after the Mike Webster autopsy, I thought that would be solved, that somebody would have seen it. And to my utter shock, I actually discovered that autopsies were rarely performed on NFL players. That autopsies, not just NFL players, were almost never performed on prominent athletes. Again, that awe. So maybe because I was an outsider, I did not care to the conformations of society. Maybe I was still conforming to the Nigerian standards. Who knew? Okay, so in fact, some doctors criticized me that, look, I should not be trusted. I'm a foreigner. I'm inexperienced. I'm too young. I don't have any established body of work. I do not understand football. But what they thought were my weaknesses in my mind and heart were actually my strengths. Because they enabled me to be independent and to think objectively.
Not clouded.
Yes.
In your thoughts.
And as I continue to do today, for example, about 10, 12 years ago, I said that every professional football player who's played will manifest some degree of brain damage. I was laughed at.
Do you still believe that to be true?
Of course.
High school, even youth football?
Every child who plays at least one season of football or ice hockey or other games has suffered some degree of brain damage. The longer you play, the more serious it becomes and the more severe. If you play up to the professional level, I guarantee you 100% of every professional football player would have permanent brain damage of a certain type, of a certain degree. It must not be CTE. That is my emphasis. I believe that because of the truth of the facts. What I'm saying today has been established centuries ago. And when I hear people say, oh, the science is not yet clear, that's an alternative truth. Truth doesn't have a side.
Truth doesn't have a side. Our time together is limited, so I want to get to the final chapter, the afterword of your book is titled, I Bet My Medical License That O.J. Simpson Has CTE. You believe that to be true?
Well, I can't talk about individual persons, because of the ethics of medicine, but I'll say two things. I do not think any child under the age of 18 in America today should play football, ice hockey, mixed martial arts, boxing, wrestling, and rugby. Given what we know today, why do I say that? If your child plays, your child will suffer brain damage. O.J. Simpson was a member of a cohort, of a population cohort, professional football players. 100% of professional football players have suffered brain damage. So this is why I seriously encourage every parent to buy this book.
If given the opportunity, would you like to examine O.J. Simpson's brain postmortem and see what you find out?
I wouldn't reach out for it because this has never been about me. But if O.J. looks at my work and what I have done and believes in my integrity and sincerity and in the humanity of my faith and science and reaches out to me, why not? I'll do what I did for Mike Webster and for many other retired players and families. For him, I'll treat him like I would treat my brother. He's my brother.
I'll close with this. In the film Concussion, The role of Bennet Omalu was played by Will Smith. Not bad, huh?
Will Smith, my life was transformed by Will Smith. I was very shocked. The first day I met Will Smith, we had dinner at the Bel Air Hotel in Beverly Hills. I had this mental image of a very big, prominent movie star who will be pompous and arrogant and belittle me. I was shocked. I spent several months with Will Smith. Will Smith is one of the most beautiful, kindest, sensitive human beings you would ever meet.
Did he capture Bennet Omalu?
Definitely. Hey, there was a day, let me tell you this story. He came to see me. So he was walking behind me, I was leading. And then suddenly, I thought I heard myself, and I wondered, who is this? And I turned, it was him. He was speaking like me, okay? So I'm like, hi, oh my gosh, look at, he said, don't worry about it, Bennett, I'll do you justice. And he did me justice. I'm deeply, deeply grateful to him.
His new book is called Truth Doesn't Have a Side by Zondervan. The book available wherever fine books are sold. Dr. Bennet Omalu, we thank you for joining us today.
Thank you
very much.
Bless you.
This has been WCBS Author Talks. I'm Steve Scott. Thank you for joining us.